Hey guys, my face on this bowl is priceless. We gotta do a retake before I get serious. Okay. So in this video, I'm gonna do the unedited version. It's gonna be a little longer on how I made the bowl. Again, it's unedited, it's longer, and I do have a shorter video including the glaze combo that I'll link in the description. So you're gonna wanna get yourself a non-sharp tool just to be able to draw a line on where you want to put your cut. So I always start like pretty soft-handed, and just taking my time on drawing the line, which you want to go from the rim in a spiral motion down, because we're going to make a cut. We want this to be a spiral bowl. So that's what I'm doing here. You just want to get a tool that can gently mark the line and take your time. And that's the very first step. Once your line is marked, now you can get your scalpel tool or a sharp knife and start the cut. But I don't cut in the first swipe. Like, I'm just almost cutting in, but not entirely. It's just the way that I maneuver the clay. So now I'll go back in and actually make the cut. And when I make these bowls, I cut like a little at a time almost. See how I stop? I pretty much stop like right there, and then the point of that is to like maneuver the clay, because we want to give it a little memory. Like, we want to kind of start to shape it. You don't want to like do it all at once for cracking reasons, and so forth. So that's what I'm doing in this clip. I'm just gently kind of making the rim round and putting it around my bowl, my second bowl that I had thrown on the wheel. So I'm just kind of thinking right now as I'm making this, like, trying to figure out what I'm doing. So that's what I'm doing with the pausing and just thinking about how I want this to look. Do I want to cut in further? Do I want to make another, keep cutting to make, and yes, I do, because it's too short, you can see. So that's what I'm doing there. Okay, so I'm going to cut in further, and I'm cutting downwards, like I'm following that line, which you can't see, the initial line, but that's all right. So I'm just going down like at an angle in a spiral motion, just a little bit at a time, so I can see each bowl that I throw is a different size or shape. So like, they're not always going to be identical, as you know. That's pottery. So now I'm just putting the little dip part in there and thinking again about where I want this, how I want it to look. Right at that moment right now, if I had just attached that right there, chances are in the firing that would droop and like almost like melt down. So that's a tip that I don't recommend, but like attaching that bowl, the dip part to the side and not attaching it to the bottom, because I've seen pots made this way that actually droop and you like lose that dip part of the bowl, if that makes sense. So I'm going to continue cutting, and my goal is to wrap this around the dip bowl and attach the dip bowl to the bottom of the big bowl, so there won't be any drooping or slumping in the firing. So now it's time to put the bowl, the dip part of the bowl, inside and play with how I want to attach it. I really like that triangle end part of the rim. I think it looks super cool right there. So I'm always trying to incorporate that somehow. Some people cut that off, but I like it, so that's what I'm doing here. This part can take a little while, and I like to take my time, so that's what's happening here, just playing around. I think that's where I want it. So now it's time to think about attaching all these pieces together and making them flow nicely. And I'm going to stop talking for a little while, just so you can see my process. Just going to sit here and be quiet, and I'll be back when there's something important to say. Right here, I'm starting to push the wall of the dip bowl into the wall of the big bowl. I'm just trying to make that shape and give the clay a little bit of memory, because that's where I'm going to attach it. To the side like that, where my thumb is pressing, and also to the bottom. I tried not to fast forward, but it's fast forwarding, sorry. So I'm making a line because I'm going to cut that dip bowl down. So I'm tracing a line because I don't want two rims overlapping each other, because it's going to be thick and heavy. So I decided to trim down the rim of that dip bowl with a scalpel knife, which is what I'm doing right now, kind of at a weird, funky line angle, because I traced it to the spiral part. So that's what I'm working on in this clip. Now that I've made that awkward, weird cut, I am playing again with how that will incorporate into the little wispy spiral part. Again, I'm trying to keep that little cool wraparound because I like it. So I'll be doing that for a bit, just playing and seeing how this is going to work. So now it's time to slip and score the pieces together. So I'm going to score the side here of the bowl, the dip bowl, that's going to attach. And I'm gonna end up scoring and slipping the rest of the areas that will be attached. Side note, if your piece should get dry during this process at all, you can just spray it with a water bottle to rehydrate it. Not too much. You don't want it to get like super, super wet, but enough to just rehydrate it. Always make sure to slip and score both sides, like the bottom of this and the bottom of the interior of the bowl, and then the bottom outside of the dip bowl. Don't like slack on that, you know. If your piece is really wet, you don't even need slip. You can just do it with water, but it's always better to be safe than sorry. I'm actually going like heavier than normal with the slip because I just want like a really secure, smooth attachment. I don't want any cracking at all. So I'm just gonna add a lot more than normal. And now I am merging the two together, gently pressing that interior dip bowl, the top rim into the spiral part, the spiral rim part of the big bowl. So I'm like really just pushing them together right now. I'm not too worried about smoothing or anything. I just want to get them to combine nice and good, a good attachment. And I'm squeezing, using quite a bit of pressure with my fingers. And the rim of that dip bowl was still a little like too tall for me. So I went back in with the scalpel knife to like cut out little pieces of it, just to get like a nice clean line and not have it be too thick. Lots of pinching here, pinching the two pieces together. I think the clay was a little bit hard on that rim, so I had to pinch harder than normal. And I'm like taking my thumb and like smoothing that rim of the dip bowl into the rim of the spiral part. So I'm going to spend quite a bit of time here, and it'll just show you like how much time you really should spend to make things super smooth if you're a perfectionist like me. I'm starting to smooth it with a sponge now. Just adding some moisture back in and just smoothing. I went to get my flexible rubber rib to smooth some more. I love this tool, but it does leave marks in the bowl, which drive me crazy, so I'll inevitably go over that again with a smooth sponge. But this is an awesome tool on the wheel and hand building. Okay, so now it's time to work on the rim, which I just wet it with a sponge, a damp sponge, and I'm using a scalpel tool to cut that little bump out. There is another tool called the Sureform, which I should have used. I have one and totally forgot about it. That's a great tool to use instead of the scalpel. I mean, they both work, but the Sureform is safer and you won't cut out a chunk by accident. And if that does happen, if you're using a knife, you can always take some more clay to merge it back into the rim. Not ideal, but it can be done. So because there are some sharp edges where I cut on that rim, I take my fingers, I wet the rim, and I'm pinching the rim on both sides and smoothing it out for a while, just to make it nice and smooth with no sharp edges. Make sure to really get into that little crevice right there, because you could get cracking if you don't really smooth that out well, which is what I'm working on in this clip. And that's it, guys. In the next clip, I'm going to share the glaze combination with you. Here you go. So it's 2 times Blue Midnight, 2 times Blue Rutile, 1 time Seaweed. This one is 1 time Vert Luster. And then the rim was a heavy rim of Flux. I absolutely love this. Nice. I went super easy on the outside because I was so worried. I was worried about this corner dripping and sticking, so I kind of wiped back a lot of glaze right here. I love it. Here's a bonus video for you. Okay, I'm in my bathroom, so if you hear an echo, I'm sorry, but it's kind of the brightest place right now. Anyway, this is the bowl, obviously, that we made. So these are the same exact glaze combination, except this one has Vert Luster and this one has Lustrous Jade. And look at the difference, and look at these wispies. Is that not beautiful? This one's more blue with the Vert Luster, and this one is like more green. So I just wanted to show you the difference so you guys can play around and have some fun. Hope you enjoyed the video.